What is it that the two major parties are not providing that you say most people want?
Well, there are so many things the majority of people in the United States have wanted for many years, but have been denied by the Republican and Democratic parties, who work in collusion with one another. For instance, in the area of universal health care, according to many surveys, most people in the United States want universal health care. But the two parties won't even put it on the table for consideration. In one major poll, 63% of adult respondents said the government has the responsibility to provide health care for all. We deserve what the people in the rest of the industrialized world have: essential health care for all. Likewise, most people, including the majority of people describing themselves as conservatives, liberals, or moderates, want much lower incarceration rates, with productive alternatives to incarceration whenever possible. One major poll reflected that 71% of people in the United States agree that incarceration for long periods is counterproductive to public safety due to the absence of effective rehabilitation programs in prison. Another survey reflected that 85% of respondents support making rehabilitation the goal of the criminal justice system rather than punishment. Also, most people believe that the criminal justice system discriminates against people of color and economically disadvantaged people. Yet our nation has by far the greatest incarceration rate in the world, with more people in jail and prison for drug-related offenses than all of the people incarcerated throughout all of Western Europe for all crimes combined. It is perverse and it is racist, and it needs to change, but it's doubtful it's ever going to change unless we push outside this two-party duopolist political system. Only 22% of respondents ages 18 to 29 believe that higher education in the United States is affordable. The majority of people want affordable higher education with an end to crushing student debt. In fact, several polls have shown that a majority of respondents support free college tuition at public universities, colleges, and trade schools. Yet the two parties, the two duopolist parties, have locked in an incredibly expensive education system and an unconscionable student debt system, unlike anything found in the rest of the industrialized world, and certainly unlike anything that existed when I was a college student. Our young people deserve affordable education, and all who carry student debt deserve a solution that serves the interests of students and the rest of the public, rather than only the interests of universities, colleges, and banks. A majority of people want an end to the wasteful so-called war on drugs. In fact, the majority of people in the United States favor decriminalizing drugs. However, our foolish, self-destructive, cruel approach to substance abuse has been a product of collusion between the two major parties. Substance abuse should be handled as a public health and education challenge, not as another reason to put more and more people, disproportionately Black and Latino, behind bars. Most people, 2 out of 3 in the United States for years, have wanted more effective action by the government to protect our climate and the Earth's inhabitants, not just toothless, voluntary agreements and kicking the can down the road for others to deal with the worsening climate crisis. Yet both parties, the major parties, have focused instead not on providing courageous leadership, but rather on cynical political calculations regarding the consequences to them and their parties of doing what is required to protect the climate and the Earth's inhabitants. They have consistently exhibited disgraceful timidity in the face of an existential catastrophe. Through their ineffectiveness, both major parties have essentially been making war against later generations and those who are least capable of surviving the horrendous impacts of climate chaos. We all, including those not yet born, deserve far better from our political parties and leaders. Most people from both major parties want an end to the corrupt campaign and finance systems. For instance, 88% of people in the United States say political TV ads should be required to disclose who paid for the ad. Yet the duopolist parties, the Republican and Democratic parties, continue to benefit from it all, feeding from the same trough of corrupting money, doing the will of wealthy corporations and individuals as they undermine the public interest. This oligarchy must come to an end. The list goes on and on of what the people of the United States want and how the duopolist Democratic and Republican parties have refused to provide it. If we want changes that will serve the interests of the people, we can't continue doing the same thing and expect a different result. We must reject the two major parties that have acted against the public interest for so many years. Exercising your choice to support the Justice Party will help break their lock on political power in our country.